Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Incubate's fourth session, and it's going to be on Job Ready with Ukari Warmann, who's our resident facilitator for Job Ready program. Thank you, everyone, for continuing on with us with this session. It's been very insightful and very rewarding for all of us. Uk has just joined, so I will add him to the live video. Just go straight for the jugular. So please grab your popcorns or start getting dinner ready and we'll get into the discussion.
There we
Hi,
go.
how are you?
Hi, everyone. I'm good. How you guys doing tonight?
Hope everyone is nice and warm. It's been mild weather here in Melbourne, so it's been pretty good actually. How's your day been on your end?
Yeah, really good. So busy day today. Had to do a lot of work, just the normal stuff at work with HR and AGL, but it's been a really good day. And now looking forward to having a chance to chat with everyone this evening. It's a bit strange to talk and no one can talk back. I can only
I know.
But no,
it takes a bit of getting used to not getting that feedback.
It does. But no, I've been looking forward to this for a little while. So Charmaine, thank you so much for the invite.
Yeah, well, thank you for being part of the conversation. It's been really enlightening so far. I mean, we covered mental health. We talked about personal growth, personal development. We even captured, workers' rights, because we identify that we actually don't know what our rights are.
That's
So
right.
which are key things that you need to understand and know, especially when you're entering into the workforce.
Yeah. Absolutely. No, all of those sound really good, but I'm really glad that there was a session on mental health. A lot of the work I do at the moment is trying to focus on how we can support people's mental health, especially as we're working from home or we're working a little bit differently than we have in the last few years. We're certainly seeing that a lot of people need support. So I'm really glad to have a session where you talk about that, and I'll make sure I go have a look at that IG.
Excellent. Well, I know a lot of people have been considering with all the changes that have been happening. It's just been a bit of a challenge in terms of like changing that mindset, from working in the office to working from home. And now with all these other things happening, like there's just such a shift that we had to do.
Absolutely.
So I think now with everything coming back, like with the restrictions being loosened a little bit in some states, it makes it a little bit easier
Yeah,
for people to sort of start focusing on the right things. And I think this part of getting job ready is actually going to be quite critical, because some people have been made redundant. Some people have had to change their working habits or working hours so that they can adapt. So it's given us an opportunity to sort of review what exactly that we want out of life with our jobs. Are we happy with our jobs? Are we happy with, where we work, what we're doing? Is it an opportunity for us to shift?
Yeah,
So which is really, really good.
I'm really happy you raised the word opportunity, because you're spot on. We have unfortunately seen lots of people lose jobs. Obviously, being in the field I'm in, I get really open exposure to that. So I know lots of people are in the job market already. I anticipate that more people will be in the job market over the next few months. And for a lot of people, that'll be a really nervous time. It'll be a really difficult time. And people trying to think about how they can keep themselves financially secure, how they can continue to move forward in their career. But I think it is a really important chance for us to see it as an opportunity. Let's take stock. What is it you actually want to do? How can you prepare yourself to be ready to take advantage of that opportunity when it comes? Because the reality is, even though people are losing jobs, businesses are still in business, and businesses are going to want to perform and want to deliver, and they're going to want good people. And so if you can find a way to position yourself as a good candidate, as someone who's going to add value to a business, the opportunity will be there. The challenge is trying to make sure that you don't fall into too much of a hole or feel like you're on the back foot. And a lot of what I hope we can talk about this evening is exactly that, is how can you see it as an opportunity and hopefully set yourself up to be ready to take advantage of that when it comes.
I absolutely agree, and you're right on the money there. And sort of like, how do you position yourself so that you can be the best candidate that's out there? And I know for you, Ukari, you've been our resident facilitator for our Job Ready program,
Yep.
and you've done a lot of a job readiness series with us in terms of helping people get their CVs ready, also in terms of the interview skills. So
Yeah.
I'm curious to find out, like with all this, the series that we've had, you know, we started with people saying, oh, I don't have a job. I'm struggling to find a job. They come for our job ready series.
Yeah.
And then after that, you know, you get feedback, people saying, oh yes, I'm actually getting callbacks. You know, I'm getting some positive traction. Tell us, what are we missing in our resumes at present that helps us to shift from, you know, not getting any responses to actually getting some positive outcomes?
Yeah. Look, Charmaine, I had to take a step back from that. I don't think it's just about resumes. And so I've loved being a part of the Incubate family and getting the chance to come and talk about job readiness. Whenever Ike and Zioni have given me the call, I've really enjoyed coming in and talking to some of our youth. And when I am doing those sessions, it's broader than just your resumes. No doubt, we absolutely look at CVs, we look at interviews, we do mock interviews and actually role play what it's like to be in that situation. We look at cover letters. But probably the first principle I go in with, particularly for us as Africans coming into this market, it's how can you make sure that you understand your value and you give yourself as much of a chance as possible because of the confidence that you come with. I think when we're going for some of these jobs, especially early on in our career, it's easy to feel like I just need to put something and hope that the company is going to give me a call back. The reality is, and I tell you as someone who works in HR, when I put a job ad up on Seek or on LinkedIn or wherever we're putting job ads up these days, I am begging to find somebody for that role. It's not me just seeing, you know, what's going on. I genuinely want to find a candidate. And so when you see a job ad, you are just as worthy to put your name into the ring as anybody else. And so one of the things that we try and teach and talk about during the sessions that I run is how can you make sure that you present yourself with the right level of confidence, but also that you're proud of all the things that you've done. I think we take a lot of things for granted in our livelihoods, experiences that we have throughout our time. And we don't realize how you can translate that and tell a really strong story about what it is that a business is actually looking for in the candidates that they come with. One of the things that I've talked about in almost all the sessions, a lot of us have worked pretty low-level jobs. We've worked at McDonald's or we've worked at Coles, we've worked at Woolies, and we've stacked shelves, we've made burgers, we've done things which, when we're trying to go for career jobs, you think that they don't actually translate to why you can tell a story about why you're good for a certain role. By doing that, we actually relegate our own experiences and you start to take away from the person you are and the things that have made you relevant for a certain role. And so we talk a lot about how can you take a different perspective on your old experiences. If you were someone who flipped burgers at McDonald's, what impact by you being in the back of that store, what was it that you were able to do that made sure that, you know what, someone had the best customer experience that they've ever had at McDonald's? And if you can tell that story, it doesn't matter whether you were at McDonald's or whether you were in a high-flying job, you could talk about customer interaction. And now all of a sudden you have a way to present yourself so that you actually resonate for the person that you're talking to. And so I think the first thing that we try and do in the Job Ready program is how do we shift people's perspective of what their experiences are, how they relate to the job that they might be going for, and as a result, how you can present with more confidence. So that's kind of...
I absolutely, yeah, and I can absolutely attest to that because I know when I first my first job was as a receptionist at you know, at a chiropractic center, and then I ended up working as a cashier at Woolies, but those were just casual part-time jobs. And then when I wanted a more corporate job, I actually felt unworthy because I'm like, well, I've only been working as a receptionist, I've only been working, you know, as a cashier. What is it do I have to offer? And, you know, just reframing the task that I do. So like, you know, yes, you're a receptionist. Yes, you take calls. Yes, you know, you organize stuff. But if you then reframe it to say, you know, I've got excellent communication skills, you know, I've been collaborating with the manager or, you know, stakeholders to sort of get the practice running, or being a cashier, providing excellent customer service. You know, we never think of that in that aspect because we think those jobs are like low value jobs. And it's just the reframing aspect of it.
Exactly, and I was lucky enough in my career, and I've just got to give a quick shout out, Charmaine. One of my old college buddies just joined in, Raul Pasamonte. Raul, how are you? Amazing to see your name come up on the screen. But for me, where it really resonated, Charmaine, was my career has taken a few different turns to get to the point that I'm at today. And so I never finished school thinking I was going to be in HR. Absolutely finished school and I wanted to play sports, and I played basketball for a little while. I did a few different things during my 20s until I realized I actually wanted to get into a corporate job. But when you're 30 and you've got no corporate work experience, it's easy to think that there's no way anyone's going to listen to you. I was lucky
Mm.
to meet someone at the time who taught me how to tell my story and take the skills that I'd learnt from basketball, or the skills that I'd learnt from sports, the skills I'd learned from some of the more junior menial jobs I've done, and how could I then pitch that to tell a story about why I was suitable for the kinds of roles that I wanted to go to. And so when I went for my first, call it big job, was working with Ernst& Young. And I can tell you right now, in my 1 hour interview with one of the partners from EY, we probably spent about 40 minutes talking about basketball. And
Wow.
nothing to do with strategy, nothing to do with consulting. It was a chance to talk about how have I got the skills from my basketball have enabled me to be ready to deal with people, to deal with discipline and being able to make sure that you get things done, to work under pressure and how you manage that, to work in a team. Suddenly you're able to take things that you don't naturally think translate to the kinds of roles that we want, but they actually.
Mm.
And so from a job readiness perspective, I think that's one of the big mental blockers that a lot of us need to overcome. And once you overcome that, and then you start to talk about some of the practical tools, the CVs and cover letters and interview technique, that's a much easier thing to address. We can all practice interviews. We can all practice and improve our CVs over time. They're actually quite easy tools to get better. But ultimately, the thing that's going to get all of us the jobs that we want is the way that we present. And it's the way that we demonstrate to who's looking for someone that actually you have the skills and you can provide the impact and the value that I'm looking for on this side of the fence. So I think that's the number one principle for all of this.
Wow, that's amazing. So the secret is in how you present yourself and the
Mhm.
confidence that you have and what you put forward as, as your proposition essentially. It's
Exactly.
almost like a value proposition for yourself, who are you? What are you bringing to the table? What values do you have? What skills have you got? And I guess, with all the different experiences that we have, even some people think that, even being a mom, staying at home with the kids and not being having a job is it's not experience. It actually is experience. You can tell yourself how you can talk about how you're well organized, how you've been able to organize your kids, to
Yeah.
manage the household. Those are all relevant skills that you can sort of apply
But
towards
it's not just as a skill, it's what makes you you. And at the end of the day,
true.
employers trying to employ, I need to find someone who, when I've met them, it's authentic. When they actually walk into the room, it's the same person I met. So the more that we can be ourselves when we come into these interviews and into these situations, we're looking for jobs, the better. One of the things we talk about on the Job Ready program, we do spend probably about a couple of hours talking about CVs. And normally I have a couple of slides and top 10 tips for CV writing. But where I always start with this is how do we write CVs today? And so if you think about what most of us do when it's time to write a CV, and I know if we were all in a room, people would be saying that I would see nodding heads. We jump on Google, how to write a CV. You get a bunch of templates come through. The templates all look pretty much the same. Maybe they've got a couple of different pages, but it's pretty much the same CV, no problem. You then think
Yeah.
about jobs that you've done before. So I used to be a salesperson. You go and find a position description. Salespeople do these 5 things, and you go and copy, paste. Those are the 5 things I've done. And you just go through this CV, and you end up putting really generic information in the CV. So
Ah,
the thing we've got to understand, for someone like me, if I'm looking at a job, me and my team, so thankfully I have people that help me with this, they may look at hundreds of CVs. And so the way I describe the CV is your CV is like the trailer to a movie. When we all go to the movies, we see the trailers for the first few minutes, and you see really quickly, I really want to go and see that movie, or I really don't want to go and see that movie, because it just gives you a taster. It gives you a flavor of
Mm.
what the movie's going to be about. You need to make sure that whatever your trailer is as exciting as possible, but it's a genuine representation of you, not of someone else's position description, not of someone else's Google template, not of someone else's information that they put on their page. Because before I've met you, all I know about you in that moment is what's on this CV. So take the time,
Wow.
okay, what is it that I'm actually wanting to present? What do I want someone like Ook or someone else who's in HR, what do I want them to read about me and see about me before they actually see me and meet me? Because all you're trying to do with a CV is get someone to read it and say, I want to find out more about that person. I want to meet that person. I want to watch that movie. Because if you don't get me excited about it on a CV, there's no reason for me to put you forward to the next round, because I see too many CVs to do it. So if you reframe what this CV is, this CV is the first eye open that I get of who you are. So you want me to be excited about who you are. So let me see who you are. Let me not see, I did this, I did that, I did this, I stacked shelves. Anybody can write those things. Talk to me about why you being in that job was a really good thing. What impact did you have when you were there? So 5,000 of us have worked at McDonald's. We could all write the same thing. Flipped burgers,
Mm.
made fries, washed lettuce, washed floors. Is it all right? Yeah, it is. We all did those things, and that was what the job was. How can you
Yeah.
stand out from the other person, the other 4,999 people? What was it about the way that you flipped burgers? What was it about the way that you washed lettuce? What was it about the way that you fried fries that made it have a better impact? So that when I read your CV, I say, if that person could have that impact doing that, I want to find out more about how they can have impact doing my job.
Wow, that's very, very interesting. So authenticity. Like I'm gonna be honest, I was one of those people who copied and pasted templates
Most of
because it was just so much easier to do. Like, you're
the
trying to find a job and you don't know what it is that you have to put.
mhm,
And again, no one had told me that it's actually okay for me to put myself
mhm.
on the resume. I thought that, there's a specific format that you have to adhere to and apply to so that you're able
But
to then
Chris, my
secure
question,
that job.
my question to you is, who told you that?
Oh, true. No one did. It was just an assumption.
That's what
It
we
was an assumption.
say, this is what everyone's doing. This is what a CV looks like. This is how I apply for a job. How do you stand out? How can
Mm,
if everyone is going to Google and pulling the same template that you are and copy pasting the same information that you are, how do I know that you're any better for a job than somebody else? Fred's
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
copy and paste through the program. We talk about it all because it's such an easy thing to do, but it's such an underrepresented who you are. And so if
Yeah.
you're able to communicate to someone the impact that you had, why was it special that you were there? How did you clean those floors better than anybody else? How did you do that job, excuse me, better than anybody else? What's
Wow.
the impact that you had when you decided to roll out initiative X? What did it do for customer sales? What did it do for customer feedback? What did it do where someone said, far out, Charmaine was there, and suddenly I had 20 more customers come and tell me that they really enjoyed their experience. Now, when I read that, I say, Charmaine understands how to connect. She understands how to communicate. She understands how to give good customer experience, rather than you just flip burgers the same way that someone else did. And it's the same story as you go through your career. As you get more and more senior, you're going to do more and more senior roles. You're going to have bigger experience. You're going to have bigger responsibilities. You're going to have roles which are going to enable you to really tell a great story. But even in senior roles, you could be the CEO of McDonald's, and you could say, "What did you do as CEO? Led X number of people, devised strategy X, Y, Z, save the month, save the company from doing this, that, and the other." You can make it a really generic CV, even at a CEO level. But if you're a CEO that says, when I was in the role, we increased customer sales by 20%. My strategy
Mm.
was the company grew by 50%. I was able to take the company through COVID-19 when everyone else was falling over. My strategies, my ideas, my initiatives, look at the impact they had. So it's the same thing throughout your career, whether you're starting in a junior level or whether you're more advanced in your career. It's how can you actually tell and communicate to someone how and when you add value in the work that you do. And that's why it's
Wow.
important for us to always take pride in what we're doing, regardless of what it is. Whether you're cleaning the floor at McDonald's or whether you're the CEO of McDonald's, it's how do you make sure you keep putting your best foot forward all the time so you can deliver impact. And then you use your CV as your tool to get you in the door. And
Wow.
then the interview becomes the time when you get to shine. That's the movie. They get to see who you are. They get to find out all the stories that they were thinking about. Suddenly, it's a really interesting discussion. And before you know it, you've put yourself in a much stronger position to be successful for the role. Tyler, what's going on, my man?
Wow, that's amazing. I wish I had all these insights earlier on in my 20s, like could have saved me so much. Because wow, that's just amazing. So for everyone who's just joined, we're talking about getting job ready, and Ukari has already touched on, being authentic. And also telling a story about yourself. Just don't look at your role as just a generic thing that you do, like be it clean floors, flip burgers. What is it that you do that makes you stand out from everyone else? Because at the end of the day, when the recruiters are looking at your resume, that's what they're looking for. And like what Ukari said, think of it as a trailer to you. What is it that you want to showcase?
Yeah.
Now I understand, yes, we want to express ourselves and talk about ourselves. Now, is there a caveat or a limit to how much? Because I mean, I can talk about myself and write tens and tens of pages.
Mm.
What would be the most appropriate, be it level or amount or pages for a resume for you to actually have a significant impact?
Yeah, look, it's difficult to say what's the right size for a CV. You're going to hear some people say it should always be a one pager. You're going to hear some people say, you know what, you can make it 3, 4 pages. Sometimes your CV is going to be longer. There's probably a couple of different dependencies. It's going to depend what level you're going for. So if you're going for a junior role, right, 10-page CV is probably not going to be the best way for you to go.
Yeah.
They're going for a more senior role, that you're probably going to want to put a little bit more information in there. So when it comes to CVs, the first thing I say to anybody is make sure you do your research on the company. Know what the company is all about, know how they operate. If you're going for roles in consulting, for example, they tend to be one-page CVs. That tends to be the norm in the consulting world. Make sure you know that so that you can put your best foot page. If you're going for roles in different industries, it might be the norm and the convention to do slightly longer CVs. And so I don't think there's necessarily you need to be targeting a 1-page or 2-page or 3-page CV. The key for you is you need to make sure you tailor your CV to the different companies that you're applying to. So one of the cardinal sins that a lot of people make is you write one CV and then you basically send it to 100 different companies, exactly the same CV.
I'm guilty of that.
Most of us are. This doesn't help you stand out, because if you're applying to McDonald's and then you're applying to Toyota and then you're applying to Kohl's, you're talking to 3 completely different people, 3 completely different worlds. So for you just to send the same CV to all of them, you're doing yourself a disservice and you're demonstrating that you work to understand that company. And so I would say before you worry about how long your CV is, make it a point to do your research on the different companies and tailor the words on that CV to what you think that company wants. Any of us right now can go onto pretty much anybody's website and you can find out the values of a company. You can find out what are the things that this company believes is important, whether it's leadership or whatever it may be. There's a lot of generic stuff, but there'll also be some pretty specific stuff to most of these organizations. So what is it that you do in your CV that makes sure that that specific information is called out in what you're putting on your page? So do your research before you worry about how long the CV is. What I would say is if it doesn't need to be super long, don't make it super long. There's
Okay.
no points gained in writing a 5-page CV and showing every job you've done since you were 15 years old if it's
Yes.
the role you're going to.
Yeah.
I'm lucky enough, I've had lots of different jobs in my life. Not every job I've had is relevant to every job I want to have in the future. But there are times where I say, you know what, when I worked in industry X and did job Y, that actually really works for this job that I'm going for now. So I'm going to pull that and put that on my CV. So don't get hung up on how long your CV is. Spend much more time focused on how do I make sure that my CV is tailored for the job that I want. How have I made sure that I'm really close to what it is that the company values? And a sneak idea that a lot of people miss, you can find out a lot about a company's ethos and vibe. Look at my man, Earl. Earl, what's going on? You can find out a lot about what a company is all about when you look at the job ad itself. And so spend your time actually reading the job ad, because the tone of a job ad, the way that a company presents, you can see whether it's a really extrovert, loud company and they want to see really loud and creative things on the CV. You can read when it's a really conservative company and you might need to be a little bit more toned down. But read the CV, excuse me, the job ad. Actually see what's in there. What is it the company is asking for? Don't just skim and see sales administrator. That's what I want. Bang, here's my CV. It's just it's a really lazy way to try and get a job. And if you're just sending your CV around like that and you expect people to come back to you, it's probably a bit arrogant. Because at the end of the day, a company's putting up a job ad. They want to know that I can get the right candidate. I'm getting lots of candidates come through. So just take your time. Don't just go bang, bang, CV's out there. And then suddenly the next day you're saying, far out, I put my CV in front of 100 people. No one came back to me. Of course no one came back to you because you sent the same CV to everybody. So take the time. I think if you do that, it's much more important than the length of your CV.
Wow, research, 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 and take your time to customize your resume for each of the employers that you're going to be applying for. Now, I know there have been a few comments actually in our chat. I'll just read a few. But for everyone, feel free to put in, if you have any questions or even if you want to share your experience, please feel free to put through in the comments. So Queen JK was like, yep, totally on point. Research to put your best foot forward. And then so many young people don't do that, which is true. Yep. And Fred was saying that in my first job, I was a Shell forecourt attendant or cleaner. I did it so well, I received a customer service award from my Shell UK. Perfect. This award opened doors in my early professional role. Yep. Now, I can attest to that as well, because even if in my own personal experience, so when I did the shift from working from Woolies, I then started working for a bank. Yep. And I started off as a teller. And, you know, my grandmother has always instilled in me that whatever you do it so well that no one else can, you know, can put any mark against you or talk bad about you. They know that, okay, Charmaine has done it really, really well. So my grandmother instilled that in me from the get-go. So that means in anything that I do and everything that I do, I try to make sure I do it to the absolute best to my ability so that people know that, you know, this is my capability, this is what I can do. And, you know, do it to the best of my ability. So as a result of that, after a 3-month probation, I got a promotion to become a customer service specialist. And not long after that, within 12 months, I was a branch manager, and which was, you know, such an amazing opportunity because I'd only been with the bank for a very short time. And then all of a sudden, I'm now a branch manager. And again, apply that same principle, you know, being disciplined and doing the best that you possibly can within that role. And again, I got another opportunity, which then brought me from Darwin to Melbourne to work into corporate banking. Yep. And even within my role within corporate banking, I also have other additional responsibilities that I do within the workforce. I volunteer for different initiatives or some working groups. And because of that, it also opens more doors for me and helps me network with other people that are outside my team, that they know that, okay, so this is what Charmaine can offer, this is who she is, and this is what she can do. And it's you know, it's just being disciplined and simple like that, in that essence of making sure that, whatever you do, from when I was a receptionist all the way through to what I'm working as now as a corporate banker, my working ethos is exactly the same. Nothing has changed. The difference is just the roles and the opportunities that I've got. So I absolutely, absolutely agree on that aspect.
But you know what, Charmaine, you hit the nail on the head with something there. And you and I have obviously had a couple of phone calls before now, but I can't say we know each other very well. But in 2 minutes, I now know that you've volunteered, you've done work in the community, and there are things that you have passion for, which make you you. This is another huge opportunity that people miss, is on their CVs. You always have that section. It tends to be near the end, special interests or other interests.
Yeah.
So what else do I do? I can tell you 75, 80% of the CVs I read, people talk about going to the movies, riding their bike, walking their dog. I love music. I love hanging out with my friends. Now I can tell you right now, everyone loves all those things. And so don't be generic. There are things that you have passion for, which is genuinely a special interest. Put that on the page, because that's again another opportunity for you to stand out and demonstrate that there is more to you than what there might be to most of the population. A lot of people will spend 80% of their time talking about the jobs they've done and the experiences they've had, and they say that's what everyone wants to read. At the the CV, like I said, that CV is the window to who you are for the person who's reading it. And so, yes, the job experience is important, don't get me wrong, but you've got a chance to actually tell someone more about who you are in that special interest piece that takes it away from just the fact that you've done a good job in the work that you've had. So if you've done things and if you're passionate about things that are a little bit more unique, I volunteered. I love charity work. I have a passion for whatever it is you have a passion for. Put it down. Put it down so that someone can read something that is important to you. So when I read it and when I meet you, I can say, you know what, tell me more about the charities that you've worked for. Tell me more about the volunteering that you've done. Rather than just, yeah, I like going to the movies and hanging out with my friends and listening to music. It's a wasted opportunity, and that takes up a portion of your CV. So be you and put you on the page so that someone can read it and they can say, great, I actually want to meet this person. I think there's something interesting here.
Wow, I've actually never thought of the interest portion, because I always, it's either I leave it out or I put just something very generic, as you said. I'd never actually thought about, then articulating some of the passions that I have. Because wow, that you're right, that is a missed opportunity, because now people, if I don't tell people of the other community work that I do, how else are they going to know? And probably maybe for that company, that's something that they're passionate about. And I've already struck a chord with them if I do that. So, wow, special interest. That's definitely a section no one ever talks about or, think about. Because, it's either you put your hobbies or something like that. So that's very good advice. Great advice. I've also got some comments on here.
Yep. Go ahead.
Yeah. So Fred was saying, yeah, good advice from my grandma. Whatever is worth doing, it's worth doing well. I agree. Queen said consistency and intentionality. That's so true. Yeah. And yeah, always include your contributions. It's seen as professional skills and paid jobs as well. That is so true. Absolutely agree. Now, when we're doing the transition from the be it retail space and everything and going into the corporate job, I know sometimes there is what they call the psychometric test. What is this abomination? What is it? Why do we need to do it? It is so annoying and so frustrating. Yep. Every single time that I had to go for a new role, there's this psychometric test. Like I've never experienced it before in my life. And then all of a sudden I'm being asked weird things like, what would you do in this situation? Or, what do you like most or least? Like, why is it that so important for the companies?
Yeah, look, it's a really good call, and it's just another data point. And so when we're looking at a lot of the roles that we try to bring in, you want to get as many data points as you can about the people that you're going to meet, because ultimately you're making decisions about who you're going to pay, who you're going to have help you to hopefully achieve your goals with very little information. You get a CV, you get an interview if you're lucky, maybe you get a cover letter, and then you're having to make pretty significant decisions. And so psychometric testing gives people an opportunity to get another data point and find out a little bit more about you. In my experience, most companies won't use a psychometric test as the decision maker. So you're not going to get or not get a job because of what comes through the psychometric testing. But what
Okay.
is give an opportunity for someone to find out a little bit more about you. Depending on what test it is, and there are a whole range of psychometric tests, excuse me, depending on which one it is, it's going to tell the potential employer a little bit more about your personality, potentially a little bit more about your leadership skills, potentially a little bit more about your personality style, and what's the, I guess, what are the things that you default to as far as how you get things done. And so lots of us would have seen different tools around, is this person a driver and they really push hard for action? Are they more of a thinker and someone who wants to do more of the analytical work? Are they more of a people person and they want to be successful through influencing others? So psychometric tests can tell employers a whole range of different things. And really the one that they choose will depend on what's important to them. The thing that's important for us to know is first of all, not to get too nervous by them. A lot of people get very nervous doing a psychometric test because they feel that if they don't come across really smart or they get all the answers right, they're not going to get the job. In the
Yeah.
vast majority of cases, that's not true. What the psychometric test will do is give people an opportunity to say, okay, I've got some more data that either I'm going to use as part of my interview process. So when I do meet this person, there's something really interesting that's come up on the psychometric test. I'm going to find out more about it. Um,
Mm.
Use it again if it's a personality one. Most good leaders want to get a balance of personalities across their team. And so you want those people that are going to absolutely drive for action. You want those people that are going to be really analytical and maybe think a little bit more and be more pensive in the way that they work. You want those people that are going to be great connectors and people leaders for your group. And so they may be looking for some balance through the psychometric testing. But again, it's very rare, and I have seen it once or twice, but it's very rare that the psychometric test is the decision maker. It's used as an additional input. And so first things first, don't get too nervous by them. Also, don't expect to get it all right. Most
Okay.
most psychometric tests are designed for you not to get the answer right. There are some tests where you might not even get 50% of the answers right, but you never know what's working in the background. And so there'll be tests where they'll be looking to see what answer did you choose. Even if it's the wrong one, it will give them an insight into how you think. There may be different tests that are looking at how fast you answer a question, and that's going to be giving data to the employer on the other side as well. Is this someone who tries to get to the answer quickly, or is this someone who wants to take a little bit more time? So it's not always about getting the answer right. A lot of the time, it's just, like I said, it's gathering another data point so I can find out more about what makes you click, what makes you go. And then I can bring that out further into the interview process. And so quite often you'll see psychometric tests come in between interviews or maybe even before you get to an interview at all, so that someone can get that data and feed it into further testing down the road, whether in another interview or whether in further testing. But look, I know no one enjoys them, so I don't think I've ever met anyone who said, I love my psych test. I can't wait. What I would say is don't get too nervous by them, complete them. And again, and it comes down to this all the time, is be yourself. Don't try
Mm.
be smarter than you are. Don't try and be someone that you're not. Complete every part of an interview process, every part of an application process. The more authentic you can be, the more confident it will make you, because you know that you're not having to make up for a lie here or try and fudge something over there. And that will come through all the way through the process. And then the best case scenario is you get the job.
Mm.
So that when you get the job, all of the inputs that someone has seen to that point are actually you. So that now when you get into the job, you're able to perform and deliver. The worst thing you can do is go, you know what, I'm going to try and show that I'm really smart here, or maybe I'll say a couple of things I didn't really do at this job, but let me put it on the page so that they think I've got that experience. And then when you
Yeah.
get the door, your manager looks at you and says, "Oh, Charmaine, I remember that you did this work. Can you come and do it for me now?" And you're just going to be sitting there like, "Oh, it's going to be tough." And all of a sudden, now you're stressing yourself out on the other side of the door. So throughout the whole process, I can't emphasize enough about step back, be proud of the experience that you've had, put your experiences on paper. Yes, you want to make sure that they sound good, that they present well. So absolutely get really good language in there. Make sure that your CV is really clean and it's really good, but make sure it's you. So that whoever is now saying, I want to meet you at the interview, they're actually meeting the person that they saw on paper.
Awesome. Well, speaking of personalities now, and it's good. It's actually reassuring to know that with psychometric tests, there's no right answer, and or however you answer, it just sort of reveals a part of you. So, which is really good.
Yeah.
Now, is this a myth or is it fact? Do companies look at our social media profiles?
It depends what you call social media. So every company has a LinkedIn. And so
Yeah.
if you haven't got a LinkedIn page, I recommend you get one. If you have got a LinkedIn page, I recommend you make sure it's up to date and make sure that it's so yes, the vast majority of recruitment that I've done over the last 10 years, we've looked at LinkedIn, and now LinkedIn is that is so prevalent. So from a social media perspective, yes, they'll all look at your LinkedIn. Will some companies go further than that and look at some of your more social media? So your Instagrams, your Facebooks. Look,
Yeah, my TikToks,
it
all of that.
happens. It does happen. And so
Okay.
I wouldn't say that it's not a part of the process where we're saying every time we meet someone, we're going to go and do a bit of, private investigation and do a bit of stalking. No, not all the time. But to say that it doesn't happen would be naive. And so for all of you who are on social media and using these pages, it's just about being smart. At the end of the day, it's only when you've got really stupid stuff on your pages that it becomes a problem. Other than that, I mean, we want to know that we're dealing with human beings. And so if we're going to look at your page and we see a couple of fun pictures and a couple of cool things that you've done, not a problem. If you're on there doing, really silly stuff and it's happening all the time, maybe it does change someone's perception. But I just think it's about being smart. It does happen, but I wouldn't say it happens often. Most of the time, we can get what we need from LinkedIn, from CVs, and then when we actually meet people.
Yeah, fair enough. I think most of the what we call the cancel culture that happens is actually with other people either exposing you,
Mhm.
and then that then becomes viral or something happens in that aspect. So yeah, I think again it's also again being mindful. Not saying that you shouldn't fully express yourself whichever way that you want to, but also at the same time it's also being mindful of what you're putting out there. What's the message? So same thing as you said, that could be your personal, your social CV.
Yeah.
So Dee said, from my experience representing workers, it absolutely does happen. So I agree with Uke. Be smart about it. Yep. Be smart about your social medias. Be smart about what you post. Even regardless, anyway, think before you post.
Hmm.
You don't know who you're going to hurt, or things that you're going to say that are going to affect other people, and you might end up being a person of influence, and then all those things that you say might end up be influencing other people. So
Hmm.
it's very, very important for you to be mindful and think before you post, because if it's not true, then just don't do it. Just don't post it, because it will affect you in the end.
Still,
Yeah.
I'm going to keep coming back to it. So I know I sound like a broken record, but it's be you. And if you want some of these roles, be you, be authentic the whole way through. Because I think more than social media, particularly here in Australia, for those of us in Australia at the moment, the thing that people do check up on is your network. Um,
Mm.
Australia is still a small market, and most of the time when you're going for roles, especially if you're going for roles in big companies, more often than not, there's someone in the company that either works with you or knows someone who's worked with you. And so the best thing you can do is the different experiences you've had with people, the different interactions you've had with people have been good ones. And so again, it's be authentic, one, but it's two, exactly what you said, Charmaine. It's have a mindset that you are going to put your best foot forward in everything you do, regardless of what the role is, whether it's a really menial task that you're not necessarily massively proud to do, or whether it's something that's a bit more high flying. Because people are always watching, people are always part of what you're doing. And I would say, in my experience, I spend a lot more time connecting with people who know a potential candidate than I have on social media. And so just make sure that people have good things to say about you and the experience that they've had with you.
Yeah, well, you talked about networking, which is something that I think is grossly underestimated. Because, I mean, as you said, at the end of the day, like if someone is trying to employ someone, um, they'll try to find either, you know, a similar connection or someone that can vouch for you, you
Mm-hmm.
know. So how do we build our networks? You know, is there like a right way of doing it? Should we be going for social drinks with, you know, the similar places that these people interact with? Should we be, you know, attending similar events that they do? You know, how can we, you know, boost our networking skills to sort of help us during the job application process?
I think it's two questions you're asking there, Charmaine. It's one, how do you boost your networking skills? And then there's a separate question around what does good networking look like? Uh,
Mm,
I take the second one first. It really does depend on your circumstance and depend on the circles that you're in. For a lot of us who potentially might still be in university or we're coming through our final stages of education before we enter the job market, most
yeah.
universities now have such an excellent alumni network. They have awesome opportunities for you to network with other people who have come out of school and gone into different industries and different careers. And so
Mm,
absolutely tap into what's already around you. Now, not everyone's going to have access to that all the time, but if you do, that's going to be your best way to network. And so for those of us who have access to groups or pools of people through our natural ecosystem, let's do that.
mm,
I was lucky that I did my university degree out here and got connected into a really great network of professionals in Melbourne and was able to meet them at various events, whether it was drinks, whether I was proactive and tried to get a coffee, whatever it was a chance for me to connect with people that had done what I wanted to do, and therefore I was able to meet with them. If you're not in a situation where you have those circles naturally, it's then just keeping your eyes open about what's going on. Forums like this are a great example. Is
mm.
people who have joined onto this forum, I don't know, and I'm so honored that you give me the opportunity to have this discussion. But I would be really happy if someone wanted to reach out and find out a bit more. Drop me a note on IG or on LinkedIn, and we can have a chat. And all of a sudden, now we've all got a new connection. So it's
Yeah.
your eyes open for what's going on around you, and the more natural you can make your networking, the better. What I've found with people who are professional networkers, you can take it too far where you start to reach out to people and there's no natural connection. You say, you know what, I want to meet all of the top 100 HR professionals in Melbourne. Suddenly you're pinging everybody with emails, let's catch up for a coffee, but I actually don't know much about you. I don't know why you're reaching out. And I think we've all probably had people cold call us, whether it's on the phone or whether it's online. It's never,
Yeah.
it's never the best experience. And so
Mm,
what you want to try and do is find really natural ins and natural forums. Look at your friendship circle, look at your business circle. Are there people that can help to connect you with others so that you can actually get in front of them in a way that you've got a bit of an in, it's a bit of a warm start, and then you can have the conversation. And then going back to my first principles, when you're having the conversation, is be authentic and be yourself. Don't try and
there's
ask
that word again.
don't
Authenticity.
don't try and ask the smartest questions in the world because you're probably going to get an answer you don't understand. Ask the questions that are genuinely important to you. Have the conversation that's genuinely important to you. And then, really importantly, be ready to talk about who you are. Be ready to tell your story in a way that's compelling and makes someone want to find out more about you. So, networking for me is the more natural you can make it, the better. But most people miss really easy networking opportunities because they don't realize that it's right in front of them. And so use
Mm,
in. Incubate's a great foundation where between yourself, Charmaine, and some of the other people I know who work on the exec, some of the other people who have worked on the exec previously, you guys have access to a huge amount of professional cachet in Melbourne and across Australia. And so for all of us who are part of that foundation, join in and be a part of it. For those of us who
Yeah.
aren't part of that foundation, how can you connect with others in your circle that are going to help you to network with the people that are going to help you to get where you want to get to? Because I think if we can get information and we can get knowledge and we can get connections with the people that are going to take us along the journey, that's the most powerful way to move forward. So I am a big fan of networking, but do it naturally. Don't force it.
Wow. Oh, awesome. Like, well, everyone consider yourself networked. Ukari has offered, send him a DM, connect with him via LinkedIn so that, if you have any questions or queries, he's happy to support you and help you out. We too, also, you can go onto our website and subscribe to become a member. You can
Exactly.
subscribe to the newsletter. We're constantly providing networking opportunities for our members all the time, every time. And even regardless of whether you are in Melbourne or interstate, we too also have connections interstate where we can connect you with like-minded people, expose you to different events and networking opportunities for you to then get connected. Because networking, it's actually could be the key differentiator between you securing a role and not getting it, because simply someone was able to vouch for you. So it's very, very important. I absolutely agree. Awesome. Now, if there anyone else who would like to have, any questions, even if you want to share experience, feel free to put in the comments. But so far, I mean, it's been such an insightful talk, Ukari. First, I thought, we're going to be talking about, top 5 tips for you to put in your resume and everything. But I think the key message has just been, be authentic, tell your story, and consider your resume as like a trailer to you, who you are. Who do you want to say you are? What do you want to showcase? Think about all of the other experiences that you've had. They're all relevant. And relevance. It's important for you to put things that are relevant onto your resume. And speaking of the resume, okay, fine. I've been with my job for 4, 5 years, 7 years. Should I be refreshing my resume? Is it necessary? I'm pretty comfortable. I've got the job that I want. Should I still revisit my resume?
Yeah, it depends where you're at, Charmaine. What I say to people is you should know what's going on in the market. And so you should always know, if I had to get a new job, what's the market saying? Where are their opportunities? What are organizations that I would want to work for? What are they doing? So absolutely have your finger on the pulse. I think it's naive, and I think it's a bit short-sighted to not know what's happening outside of your world. Having said that, if you've been at your job 4, 5, 7, 10 years, and you haven't updated your CV, that's not the end of the world. You'll be fine, assuming that you've got some level of security in your role. I think it's more important for you to know what's going on, so that if you do want to make the move, you can then refresh and update your CV. What I do advise people, though, is as you're going through your years on the job, regardless of whether you actually put it down on the CV or not, you need to be really clear on what you're achieving. What are the milestones that you're actually achieving through that job? What are the things that you're implementing? What are the things you're doing? So that if you do ever need to tell the story about why you were successful in a role, you can actually talk to it quite easily. A lot of us do so many things. We're so busy now. We do great things all the time. You just move on to the next one, on to the next one, on to before you know it, you finished a year, you might have achieved 20 really awesome milestones, but you can't remember them. You sit there and you say, I did that, and I think I did that, but I didn't really track it. I'm not sure what happened. And then all of a sudden you're scrambling to try and make your CV sound better than you wanted it to. So just make sure you're really conscious of the impact that your ideas are having. If you have an idea and it creates a real improvement in employee feedback, document it. Just have it somewhere so you know that it's happening. And so, excuse me, I think it's much more important to be close to what you're doing and what's going on in the market than it is to be updating your CV every couple of years, because your CV will come out when you need it, and updated when you need it. But if you don't have the content to put into it, that's when you're in a real problem.
Awesome. Well, this is something that I actually learned from one of the sessions on our Job Ready program, and keeping your pulse on the market. So what I tend to do now is, every year I do like an annual review essentially of my role, where I want to be, what I want to achieve, and then also just look out on the market, sort of see, well, what's out there. What is it that I want to be doing in the future? What does that role require? And then ask myself, okay, so what do I need to do for
Yeah,
me to be able to achieve that role, and then start working on that and make it as a development plan. So you can actually use it as an opportunity for you to put in a development plan to say, okay, so this is what I want to do in my role, in my career.
yeah,
And then you just add it towards that. So very, very important. I highly recommend it to actually
yeah.
continue to be on the pulse, because you just never know. Like as we've seen, the lockdowns has caused some people to be made redundant. You thought you had a secure job, and then all of a sudden, overnight, you're told that it's going to look bleak, and you're not going to have a role, or they can't assist you. So I think what definitely what the lockdown has made us do is to sort of reflect, sort of say, well, okay, I may think I am comfortable and confident in my role, I have job security, but the reality is actually we all don't, because if the economy collapses tomorrow, I mean,
It's
what,
life.
what are we gonna do?
It's life.
And yeah, that is life, and you sort of have to adapt and adjust. So it's important that we look after ourselves,
Exactly right.
and regardless of whether you think that you've been with a company for so long, when things get to the absolute bottom and business decisions have to be made, it doesn't matter how much loyalty you have with that company. They will do whatever works best for the company. They will not be for you or by you. They'll just do what works best so that they can stay afloat. Because at the end of the day, the business is out there to make money. And if you're an additional cost, unfortunately, life happens.
Oh, sounds so sad, Charmaine. You make it sound so
I
sad.
know. Sad reality, however, it is an opportunity for
Exactly
you to
right.
sort of reflect and say, well, okay, so what do I want for myself?
Exactly right.
What am I getting out of the company? What can I do for myself so that I can better myself? So I'm better if I am to go on the job market again, I have a better positioning.
Exactly
So
right. Really good way to put it. Really good way to put it.
yeah, yeah, awesome. Now, I know we're running out of time, and for those that have
We
just joined the last portion, we are actually going to be posting this whole video on IGTV, so you can watch it at your own pleasure. If you know someone who needs help with, getting their resume sorted, or, unsure what to do, especially around this time where there's a lot of uncertainty, I highly recommend that you rewatch this session, because we've had so many interesting gems about, being job ready. We talked about authenticity, tailoring your resume to the industry, to the company, to the role. Research, research, research. And also networking is probably your best bet in sort of giving you that extra nudge for you to be able to get to that next role. So, I mean, I can keep going on and on and on, Ukari, about some of the amazing insights that you talked about. But I think the key thing with everything that we've talked about is authenticity. Be authentic,
Yeah,
you know,
always.
be you, do you, and, everything will work out, because you don't have to pretend.
Exactly.
And less mental energy that you have to put through to put a face, because if you're authentic,
It's
it works.
being confident in who you are, being confident in the
Yeah,
experience you've had, and not relegating the experiences that you've had. I think too often we take things for granted. We do things and we take them for granted, and there's
yeah,
a really powerful story behind it. So always take the time when you're applying for roles. Give yourself a blank piece of paper. What are the experiences I've had that are going to be relevant for this job? What are the things I've
yeah,
done relevant for this job? And build your CV out from there. And then you'll get to a point where you have a framework of your CV that works, and then you tailor the bits around the sides of it that make it work for the different companies that you're going to apply for. None of us are ever going to be 100%. We're not all going to put in, every application we put in, we get a job. But
yeah.
we have to stay the course and go for the roles that are going to be good for what we're trying to do in our career. But if you put in the work, eventually the work will come back and reward you.
Amen to that. This has been so insightful, Ukari. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh,
It's
the
so
hour
unfortunate
goes
we don't
quick.
have more time. I could keep talking.
The hour goes quickly. No, it's been really great to talk. And like I said, a bit different doing it without having the interaction of the room. Like I always love having the back and forth with everyone in the room. But look, if there's
Yeah.
something that has helped people, I'm really happy. I hope it's helped, and I hope it's something you can take as you get ready for your next career step. Like I said, the invitation's open. If you want to touch base, I'm more than happy to have a chat with people outside of this. And so just hit me up on LinkedIn. And I look forward to hopefully doing more job ready sessions with Incubate.